Hi there, and welcome to Ask Dr. Saira, our weekly video series where I answer your questions about relationships, spirituality, and personal development. Today's question comes from Ali, and Ali says, "What tools can I use if me and my partner have two different parenting styles?" Okay, that's a tricky one. The thing about parenting is that there's a part of me that wants to say, like, there's a right way and there's a wrong way. There are wrong ways. Okay, so there are ways that if you parent in a particular way, you're going to actually damage your children for the rest of their lives, and they're going to need therapy. Like, that's just a fact. I have to say it. Sometimes when I'm talking to clients and others, and they're kind of giving me all these ideas of that they've learned about how to parent, and then I think, I don't know about that because problems. So what I would say is if you have different parenting styles, I would wonder, where did you get this information? Why do you parent in this particular way? Is it just because you were parented that way? That's not necessarily the best reason to parent a child a particular way. And when we look at the research, there's actually ways that are more effective as far as building resilience and grit and compassion and the capacity to feel in an emotionally healthy way. And then there's the other kind of parenting. So I want to tell you a little bit, Ali, about attachment. Now, there's some people who talk about attachment parenting in a very specific way. I don't want to talk about attachment parenting. I just want to talk about attachment as a concept. And so this is what it is. Because we're human mammals, our first impulse is to attach to another. We're social creatures, right? If we were alone in the wilderness as a child, you'd be dead. So, because the tiger would eat you, right? So we are designed as children, as mammals, to find, I don't know about healthy adults, but to find an adult and kind of lock onto them. So this goes right back to like the moment a child is born, right? Actually, even before that. So when a woman is pregnant, speaking to the child actually starts creating a little bit of like an attachment bond. And so when the child is born, then he or she can hear the voice that they've been hearing in their, in the womb. And then that's the beginning of the attachment. They know now the importance of a newborn being held by its mother immediately after birth, right? And like skin to skin. So attachment is critical. Now, how does that connect to parenting? Well, there's some parenting styles, or I would say parenting philosophies, that are more about independence and letting the child kind of figure it out. And this is what I have to say about that. So I'll give you a really easy example, which is timeout, right? I grew up with timeout. Most of my friends and colleagues grew up with timeout. A lot of parents still do that concept of timeout. So that means when a child is like acting out and they're not listening and they're being bad and they're throwing a tantrum, you remove them from the situation. Maybe you send them to their room, or you put them on the stairs, or you put them in a corner and you get them away. And so then they can calm down and then come back. The problem with timeouts is you're not actually teaching your child how to work through their emotions, right? Basically, you're telling your child, like, if you're not happy and smiling, I don't want you around. Go figure that out yourself and then come back. But a 5-year-old brain or a 2-year-old brain doesn't actually have the capacity to figure it out on their own. Right? What happens when you separate them is that now they're all on their own in the wilderness. And so now their fight or flight instinct is going to come up and they're not going to be able to self-soothe. Oh, but you say, Dr. Saira, like, I had timeouts and I turned out okay. Yeah, we'll get to that. Because people always say that, like, I went through it and I turned out okay. But I would say, yeah, okay. And what about that voice in your head that's super critical and always putting you down and sabotaging all your good plans? What about that voice? Right? That developed over time because you were given the message from your caregivers that your instincts are wrong. So another simple thing, like if a child asks you, like, Mommy, are you sad? And you're actually sad, then you need to say to your child, yes, I'm sad, and tell them why. In an age-appropriate way, of course. Because if you don't, the child picks up two things. One, my read of other people's emotions is incorrect, so I can't actually tell what a real feeling is, because I see a feeling or I feel a feeling of someone else, but I'm wrong. And second, I know that that person is sad or mad or whatever, and it must be my fault, right? Because children are very self-absorbed. Self-absorbed is the best word, and they think everything is about them, and everything that goes wrong is because of them. Because to a certain age, you have to keep your parents on a pedestal in order to survive your family. So that's until about age 10. So back to parenting styles. I could talk about this like all day and all night. What I will say is that the foundation, if you can just keep one thing in mind, which is how do I bring my child closer? In every situation, how do I bring my child closer? So instead of time out, right? Instead of time out, what the specialists now are saying is it's actually about time in. It's about being with your child and helping them self-regulate, helping them calm down. And, people say, well, I hold them and then they kick me and whatever. And I'm not saying physically like hold the child down, but I'm saying stay in the same space with them and regulate yourself as an adult, right? So don't let your own feelings get out of control. You be a grown-up and sit there with your child. And then what happens is, see, we have mirror neurons in the brain. These are designed to help us mimic the people that we're with. And children have a lot more of these than adults, right? Because they have to learn social cues. They have to learn like facial expressions and tone of voice and all of these things. And so when you are calm and centered, it's easier for your child to come back from their situation. And the thing is, many people think of like tantrums and defiance as like, oh, they're trying to manipulate me, right? Tantrums are not that. Tantrums are where the child's brain, again, has gone into fight or flight mode and they're just surviving. And so they're doing whatever it takes to keep themselves safe. So they're not actually activated that part of their mind that can learn and that can take directions and that can, understand consequences. That part of the brain is shut off when a child is throwing a tantrum. It's just not available to them. That's the science of it. So giving them a lecture or giving them instructions or whatever during that time is going to literally fall on deaf ears. I mean, not literally, but it's going to fall on deaf ears because that part of the brain is not awake. Tantrums. Defiance. Now, children need to be able to say no. And they start learning that at about age 2-ish, the capacity to say no. Because it's only when they can say no meaningfully that they can say yes meaningfully. Imagine you never let your child say no to you. Well, what happens when that child is now a teenager and they're in a compromising situation with sex or drugs or violence and they can't say no? Because you know what? They never learned how. Right? So defiance is a child's natural way of learning to say no. And so what you can do as an adult is provide parameters and boundaries, but still allowing children to say no. And a simple way of doing that is give them choices on things that don't really matter to you, like which shoes they want to wear. Give them 2 choices, this pair or that pair. Let them wear the shoes that they want out of 2 choices. Simple things where they can learn decision making and how to say yes and how to say no in a way that's safe. So, Ali, I don't know if I've answered your question. What I guess my short answer would be, if your parenting styles are different, ask yourself why. Ask yourself why you're attached to that particular parenting style, and likely it's because you were parented that way. If you look at what we now know about child development, which we didn't know 20, 30, 40 years ago, but we now know, if you look at the latest research, you'll see that the best thing for children is keeping them close, keeping them bonded, and letting them know that they're important, right? That they're more important than your phone or your work or your whatever else that you're busy doing. A resource for you, Ali, is a book called Hold On To Your Kids by Dr. Gordon Neufeld. I'll put the details in the link below. And so have a look at that. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. For the rest of our viewers, I would say please leave a comment below about your parenting style and kind of maybe your top 3 values when it comes to parenting. What are they? Are they like respect, playfulness, and honesty, or whatever the top 3 are for you in your family? So those are my thoughts. Thanks for joining us for Ask Dr. Saira, and I'll see you next week. It's your life, and only you can live it.